Okay everyone, now we're ready to put in our very first channel of sewing. And this Roman shade is 45 inches tall, and what I've done is I've broken up that height into 5 horizontal channels. The bottom channel should be half the height of what the rest of the channels are going to be. So in this instance, 45 inches, I decided to do 4 sections that are 10 inches tall, and that means my bottom section is 5 inches. So the math kind of really worked out in our favor this time. So what I'm going to do is use an erasable fabric marker, which you can buy this kind. There's a bunch of different kinds of fabric markers that are erasable, and you can generally get them at any craft store. So what I'm going to do is measure from the very bottom edge of my shade, and I'm going to use just some regular straight pins. So what I do is at 5 inches, I'll make a horizontal mark, and then each channel that I sew, I'm going to sew together 1.5 inches. So 5 inches plus 1.5 inches is 6.5 inches. And I'm going to do that the whole width, probably about 4 or 5 times. So halfway in between the 5 and the 6.5, I'm going to put a pin, a straight pin. So that's at 5 3/4 up from the bottom edge. Okay, so now I have kind of a double line of pink marker and then a line of pins. So now, to address the issue of my side hem coming up, I'm going to use more stitch witchery. So I'm just going to break off a section that's about 1.5 inches high, and I'm only going to put it in that 1.5 inch space that I'm going to sew. And what this does is it helps the fabric, the outer fabric, and the lining stay together so that when I pinch it to do my line of stitching, it's not going to gap away from me. And I do this because out of all of the shades I've made, it's really the best method that I have found to do this with. Okay, so now I have my line of pins in. Now what I'm going to do is fold my fabric, the shade, on that line of pins, and we're going to iron it down. Now I've only put 5 pins across the width, so that's about every 5 inches or so, because this shade is 25 inches wide. And this, why I put the pins in is that it helps both layers of fabric stay together so that the outer fabric gets pressed in with the lining. So now what I'm going to do is just flip the direction of my pins so that they are perpendicular with the direction of my sewing line. And when I sew this, I'm going to sew with the side facing me that's more towards the bottom of the shade. So in other words, I have this line of pink and this line of pink, but because this line is closer to my bottom hem, I'm going to sew with this side facing up and my other side on the feed dogs.